I overheard my husband drunkenly laughing with his friends. She's too stupid to realize I've been cheating for years. They all roared with laughter. I didn't say a word. But when he showed up crying at my door, he got a surprise he never expected. Hello everyone. Thank you for being here with me today. Before I begin my story, I'd love to know which city you're joining us from. Please feel free to share in the comments. Now, let me take you into this story. I stood there, my hand hovering just inches from the brushed nickel doorknob, and felt my entire world stop spinning. It was a Friday night, the kind of crisp autumn evening that usually smells like wood smoke and dried leaves, but right then, all I could smell was the faint scent of expensive bourbon seeping out from under the door of the man cave. I had bought that bourbon. I had paid for the renovation of this room. I had paid for the leather recliners they were sitting on. I was supposed to be in Chicago. My flight had been cancelled due to a mechanical issue, and instead of calling Derek to complain, I had decided to be the fun wife. The supportive wife. I'd stopped at that Italian deli he loves, picked up a spread of antipasto, and driven home with a smile on my face, thinking about how surprised he'd be. I imagined us curling up on the sofa, maybe watching the game highlights, just being us. I had come in through the garage side door, wanting to sneak up on him. I heard the laughter before I even reached the hallway. It was loud, raucous, the sound of men who had been drinking for hours. I recognized the voices immediately. There was Kyle, with his distinctive braying laugh, and Jason, Derek's college buddy who never really grew up. And then, there was Derek. My husband. The man I had shared my life with for 10 years. The man I was currently working 80-hour weeks to support so he could find his passion in real estate, a passion that had yet to yield a single paycheck in 2 years. I was about to turn the knob, to burst in with my surprise, and the bag of expensive prosciutto, when I heard it. My name. Meredith? Derek's voice was slurring slightly, dripping with a condescension I had never heard before. Man, don't worry about Meredith. She's not gonna find out. She's too busy trying to make partner at that firm. She barely notices when I'm home, let alone when I'm not. But 3 years, dude? That was Kyle. You're playing with fire. And then came the sentence that froze the blood in my veins. The sentence that killed the woman I used to be. Derek laughed, a cold, arrogant sound. She's too stupid to realize I've been sleeping with Vanessa right under her nose. Hell, we did it in her home office last week while she was on a Zoom call in the kitchen. She's clueless. As long as I tell her she's smart and beautiful once a day, she keeps the direct deposits coming. She's not a wife, boys. She's a walking ATM. The roar of laughter that followed was deafening. It wasn't just men laughing. I heard a female giggle. A high-pitched, familiar giggle that sent a spike of nausea straight up my throat. I couldn't move. My hand was shaking so bad I almost dropped the deli bag. The hallway started to tilt. Before I tell you what I did next, I need to take a second. My heart is racing just retelling this. If you are listening to this and you've ever felt that gut punch of betrayal, please, do me a favor. Hit that like button and comment the number 1 down below. Let me know you're with me. It helps me know I'm not shouting into the void, that there are real people out there who understand this pain. Comment 1 so I can see you. Thank you. Now, let me tell you what happened when the laughter died down. I didn't open the door. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to kick it open, to scream, to throw the antipasto at his lying face. I wanted to scratch his eyes out. I wanted to confront Vanessa, because I knew that giggle. I would know it anywhere. It was my best friend. My neighbor. The woman I had lunch with 2 days ago. But something stopped me. Maybe it was shock. Maybe it was the CFO in me, the part of my brain that deals with risk assessment and crisis management every single day. Or maybe it was just pure, unadulterated horror. I listened. I stood there like a ghost in my own house, a house I paid for, and I listened to them dismantle my life. "You're terrible," Vanessa's voice cooed. It was muffled, like she was snuggled up next to him. "Meredith isn't stupid. She's just tired. And old." "She's boring, Ness," Derek said, his voice dropping to that husky tone he used to use with me. "She's a bore. Once the inheritance from her aunt clears probate and hits our joint account, we are going to have so much fun. I'm thinking Bali. Just you and me." "And what about the ATM?" Jason asked, snickering. "The ATM gets traded in for a newer model," Derek said. I stepped back. One silent step. Then another. My breath was coming in short, jagged gasps. I realized in that moment that I wasn't dealing with a cheating husband. I was dealing with a predator. This wasn't a mistake. This was a long-term con. He was waiting for my inheritance. He was using me. I turned around, clutching the bag of food to my chest like a shield, and I crept back out the way I came. I eased the garage door shut, my hands trembling so hard I could barely turn the key. I got into my car, backed out of the driveway with the lights off, and drove. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't be there when that door opened. I drove for what felt like hours, but in reality, it was probably only 20 minutes. My vision was blurred by hot, angry tears that wouldn't stop coming. I found myself pulling into the only place that felt anonymous enough to fall apart, a 24-hour Walmart parking lot. I parked in the furthest corner, away from the glow of the entrance lights, and killed the engine. The silence that filled the car was heavy, suffocating. And then, I screamed. I screamed until my throat felt raw. I beat my hands against the steering wheel until my palms stung. It was a guttural, animalistic sound that I didn't know I was capable of making. The pain wasn't just in my head, it was physical. It felt like someone had reached into my chest and ripped out my vital organs, leaving a gaping, icy hole where my heart used to be. Stupid. The word echoed in my head. She's too stupid. Was I? Was I stupid? I leaned my forehead against the cool plastic of the steering wheel and tried to breathe. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4. It was a technique I used before board meetings, but right now, it felt useless against the tsunami of grief crashing over me. I started to replay the last 10 years of my life. The signs. Oh God, the signs were everywhere, flashing like neon lights that I had willfully ignored. I thought about the business trips Derek had started taking 2 years ago. He said he was scouting properties in neighboring states. I had been so proud of him. I remembered packing his bag, slipping little love notes into his pockets. I remembered him coming home smelling of a soap we didn't use, some generic hotel bar soap, I had told myself. Or maybe it was vanilla. Vanessa wore vanilla. I thought about the money. I was the one with the high-powered career, the salary that put us in the top tax bracket. I was the one who handled the mortgage, the insurance, the retirement funds. Derek's contribution had been minimal. But I had never minded. Marriage is a partnership, right? You support each other. When he wanted to quit his sales job to pursue real estate, I was his biggest cheerleader. Follow your dreams, honey, I had said. I've got the bills covered. I had practically handed him the shovel to dig my own grave. I remembered the Christmas party last year. Vanessa had been there, wearing a dress that was a little too tight, a little too short. She had spent the whole night laughing at Derek's jokes, touching his arm. I had felt a twinge of jealousy then, a small prickle on the back of my neck. But I had pushed it down. You're being insecure, Meredith, I had told myself. Vanessa is your friend. She's going through a rough patch. Be kind. Kindness. That was my crime. I had been kind, and they had taken that kindness and sharpened it into a weapon to stab me in the back. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. A text from Derek. Hey babe, hope the flight wasn't too bumpy. Miss you. Going to have an early night. Love you. I stared at the screen, reading the words over and over again. Early night. He was probably still sitting in his man cave, with my best friend on his lap, drinking my bourbon, laughing about how gullible I was. Love you. The lie tasted like bile in my mouth. He didn't love me. He loved my salary. He loved the lifestyle I provided. He loved the safety net that allowed him to play big shot while contributing absolutely nothing. And the inheritance. My Aunt Clara had passed away 6 months ago. She was a woman who had never married, invested wisely, and left everything to me. It was a significant sum, enough to pay off our house and set us up for life. Or, apparently, enough to fund a trip to Bali for a cheater and his mistress. A fresh wave of panic hit me. The joint account. We had a joint savings account for household expenses, but my inheritance was supposed to be separate. However, Derek had been pushing me to move it. It's easier for tax purposes, he had argued. We can invest it better together. Had I moved it yet? No. Thank God, no. The probate was still finalizing. But he knew about it. He was counting on it. He had a timeline. I looked at my reflection in the rearview mirror. My mascara was running down my cheeks in jagged black lines. My eyes were red and swollen. I looked wrecked. I looked like a victim. No, I whispered to the empty car. The sound of my own voice startled me. It was raspy, but it was firm. I wiped my face with the back of my hand. I was Meredith freaking Miller. I managed multi-million-dollar portfolios. I navigated corporate mergers. I had clawed my way up from a receptionist to a CFO in a male-dominated industry. I was not stupid. I had been trusting. I had been loving. But I was not stupid. And I was definitely not going to let them win. I wasn't going to go home tonight. I couldn't. If I saw him, I would explode, and I would lose the element of surprise. And right now, surprise was the only weapon I had. He thought I was in Chicago. He thought I was clueless. I needed a plan. But first, I needed an ally. I sat there in the dark parking lot, the engine ticking as it cooled, and closed my eyes. I needed to be sure. My brain was trying to protect me, trying to tell me maybe I had misunderstood. Maybe it was a bad joke. But deep down, I knew. I needed to replay the tape in my head, to force myself to hear every single word I had overheard at that door. I needed the anger to override the heartbreak. I let my mind drift back to the hallway, to the smell of the bourbon, the sound of the voices through the wood. I remembered hearing Jason's voice again. So, when do you drop the bomb? You can't keep this double life up forever, man. Meredith is going to notice eventually that you're never there. I told you, Derek had said, his voice arrogant and slurring. I'm waiting for the probate to clear. The lawyer said maybe another month. Once that cash hits the shared account, I file. I take half of everything, plus alimony. I mean, look at the lifestyle she's accustomed me to. I can argue I can't work due to emotional distress. Laughter. Cruel, raucous laughter. You're evil, Vanessa had giggled. I love it. She looks at me with those puppy dog eyes, Derek continued. She bought me these clubs for my birthday. $2,000. She thinks if she buys me things, it makes up for the fact that she's, well, look at her. She's frigid. She's always tired. Oh Derek, I have to work late. Oh Derek, my back hurts. It's pathetic. She dresses like a librarian, Vanessa added. That's done more than I expected. Vanessa had been the one who helped me shop for my work clothes. She had told me I looked professional and elegant. Now, she was mocking me for it. God, have you seen that gray suit she wears? It does nothing for her. No wonder you came running to me. Exactly, Derek said. You're vibrant, Ness. You're alive. Meredith is just a paycheck. A very large, steady paycheck. What about the house? Kyle asked. Oh, I'm keeping the house, Derek said confidently. I'll make her buy me out. Or better yet, we sell it, split the equity, and I use my share to get us that condo downtown we looked at, Ness. My blood ran cold remembering that. The condo downtown. Vanessa had mentioned a friend looking at condos downtown a few weeks ago. She had asked me for advice on the market. She was talking about herself. She was talking about spending my money, living in a home bought with the equity I had built, with my husband. The level of premeditation was sickening. This wasn't a drunken mistake. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was a calculated extraction of resources. I was a host, and they were the parasites. I remembered the sound of ice clinking against glass. To Meredith, Derek had toasted. The hardest working sugar mama in the state. To Meredith, they all chorused. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. That toast. That was the moment I knew there was no going back. There was no counseling that could fix this. There was no apology that could erase that level of disrespect. He didn't just want to leave me. He wanted to destroy me. He wanted to strip me of my dignity, my assets, and my future, and laugh while doing it. He viewed me with utter contempt. I looked down at my hands. They were trembling, but not from fear anymore. They were trembling from rage. A cold, hard rage that was settling in the pit of my stomach, replacing the nausea. I wasn't a librarian. I wasn't frigid. And I certainly wasn't an ATM. I pulled out my phone. It was 11:30 p.m. I knew who I had to call. I knew who would believe me, who wouldn't try to play devil's advocate or tell me to work it out. I dialed my sister, Janice. Janice was 5 years older than me. She was divorced, tough as nails, and had never really liked Derek. She had been polite, for my sake, but she had always side-eyed him at Thanksgiving. She used to say he had shifty eyes and a weak handshake. I used to defend him. I used to tell her she was just cynical because of her ex. God, I hated that she was right. The phone rang twice. Meredith? Her voice was groggy, filled with sleep. It's late. Is everything okay? Did your flight land? I didn't go to Chicago, I said, my voice cracking. I came home early. Oh. She sounded more awake now. Did you catch Derek in his underwear playing video games? I caught him, I whispered, tears spilling over again despite my rage. Janice, I caught him. He's cheating. With Vanessa. And, it's worse. It's so much worse. Stay right there, Janice said. Her voice changed instantly. The sleep was gone. She was in battle mode. Where are you? Walmart parking lot off I-95. Come to my house. Do not go back there. Do not call him. Just drive to me. Now. Janice, he called me stupid, I sobbed. He called me a paycheck. We'll deal with him, Janice said, her tone lethal. But right now, you need to get safe. Drive to me. I'm putting the coffee on. Janice's kitchen was bright, warm, and smelled of strong coffee, a stark contrast to the dark, cold interior of my car. I sat at her small oak table, my hands wrapped around a mug that said, I don't need Google, my sister knows everything. Under normal circumstances, I would have laughed at the irony. Tonight, I just stared into the black liquid as if it held the answers to the universe. I had told her everything. I vomited out every word, every insult, every detail of the plan I had overheard. I told her about the inheritance, the Bali trip, the ridicule of my clothes. Janice didn't interrupt. She sat opposite me, wearing her oversized bathrobe, her face set in a grim mask. When I finally finished, silence hung in the air for a long moment. Then, Janice stood up. She walked over to me and gently pried my phone out of my hand. "Hey!" I protested weakly. "No," she said firmly. "You are not texting him. You are not calling him to scream. You are not posting sad quotes on Facebook. We are going dark." She placed the phone on top of the refrigerator, out of reach. "Meredith, look at me." I looked up. Her eyes were fierce. "Cry. Let it out. You have tonight to mourn the marriage you thought you had. But tomorrow? Tomorrow, the funeral is over. Tomorrow, you are not the grieving wife. You are the CFO." I wiped my nose with a tissue. "I feel so stupid, Janice. How did I not see it?" "Because you're not a liar," she said simply. "Honest people don't expect others to be lying to them constantly. He took advantage of your trust. That doesn't make you stupid, it makes him a sociopath." She sat back down. "Now, listen to me. This man isn't just cheating. He's plotting a financial coup. He wants your inheritance. He wants half your assets. He wants alimony." "He said he'd claim emotional distress," I said, a fresh wave of anger hitting me. "Of course he did. He's a leech. But here is the good news." "There's good news?" I asked incredulously. "The good news is that he thinks you're stupid," Janice said, leaning in. "He thinks you're in Chicago. He thinks you're clueless. He has no idea you were standing outside that door. That is your advantage. That is your weapon." I blinked. "What do you mean?" "If you confront him now, he goes into defense mode," Janice explained, her voice low and calculating. "He'll hide money. He'll delete texts. He'll spin a story to our parents. He'll gaslight you. But if you play along, if you let him think he's still the puppet master." "You want me to pretend?" I asked, revulsion curling in my stomach. "You want me to go back there and sleep next to him?" "I want you to be a gray rock," Janice said. "You know that term? You be boring. You be unreactive. You be exactly what he thinks you are. Meanwhile, you gather evidence. You secure your money. You talk to a lawyer. You build a case so watertight that when you finally drop the hammer, he won't just lose the marriage. He'll lose everything." I thought about it. I thought about Derek's laugh. "She's too stupid to realize." If I went back there screaming, I was just the scorned woman. I was emotional. I was messy. But if I went back there as a spy in my own home? "Can you do it?" Janice asked. "Can you look him in the eye and lie?" I took a deep breath. The image of Vanessa giggling in my hallway flashed through my mind. "He lied to me for 3 years, I said, my voice steadying. "I can lie to him for 3 weeks." "Good." Janice stood up and went to the fridge. She pulled down a notepad and a pen. "Let's make a list. First thing tomorrow morning, we check the bank accounts. We need to know exactly how much damage he's done. Second, you need a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. You need a shark." "Mr. Henderson," I said automatically. Janice raised an eyebrow. "The guy who represented the mayor's ex-wife?" "The guy who left the mayor with nothing but his collection of ugly ties," I corrected. "Yes. I need him. Expensive, Janice noted. I have an inheritance, I said, a dark smile touching my lips for the first time that night. And Derek isn't touching a dime of it. Janice nodded, satisfied. Okay. Tonight, you sleep here. Tomorrow, you go home. You tell him your flight got in late Saturday morning. You act tired. You act busy. You act like the boring librarian he thinks you are. I can do that, I said. And Meredith? Janice softened, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. You are not alone. We are going to bury him. For the first time since I heard those voices through the door, I felt something other than pain. I felt power. Driving home the next morning felt like driving to a crime scene. The sun was shining, the birds were singing, and the suburban streets looked perfectly normal, but I felt like I was entering a war zone. I had spent the night on Janice's couch, sleeping in fitful 20-minute bursts, waking up with my heart pounding. But by 8 a.m., I had showered, put on my travel clothes, and plastered a mask of exhaustion onto my face. The plan was simple. I was the gray rock. I was uninteresting. I was oblivious. I pulled into the driveway. Derek's car was there. Vanessa's car was gone, thank God. I didn't think I could handle seeing her face yet without physically lunging at her. I unlocked the front door and stepped into the foyer. The house was quiet. The smell of stale beer and bourbon hung heavy in the air, masked poorly by an excessive amount of air freshener, vanilla bean. Vanessa. Honey? Is that you? Derek's voice called out from the kitchen. My stomach flipped. I took a deep breath, forcing my heart rate down. Showtime. Yeah, it's me, I called back, pitching my voice to sound weary. Flight was a nightmare. Then I couldn't get a cab. Derek appeared in the hallway. He looked normal. That was the most terrifying part. He was wearing his sweatpants and a t-shirt, his hair messy from sleep. He looked like the man I had loved for a decade. He didn't look like a monster. He didn't look like a man who had spent the night betraying me. Babe! He came over to hug me. I stiffened. I couldn't help it. As he wrapped his arms around me, I held my breath. I couldn't bear to smell him. I gave him a stiff, awkward pat on the back. I'm so gross from the travel, I said, pulling away quickly. I need a shower immediately. He didn't seem to notice my recoil. Or maybe he just didn't care. Oh, poor baby. I was so bummed you didn't make it to Chicago. The boys came over to watch the game. We had a few drinks. Sorry if the place smells a bit like a brewery. It's fine, I said, looking past him. My eyes scanned the living room. It was mostly clean, but I noticed things. A coaster out of place. A pillow on the wrong side of the sofa. Did you have fun? I asked, testing myself. Yeah, it was okay. Just guy stuff. You know. Boring. He smiled that charming, boyish smile. Missed you, though. The lie was so smooth. It slid off his tongue like oil. Missed you too, I lied back. It was easier than I thought. It wasn't an emotional lie, it was a tactical one. I went upstairs to the bedroom. Our bedroom. The bed was made, but the sheets looked hasty. The corners weren't tucked in the way I did it. Had they been in here? The thought made my skin crawl. I dropped my bag and walked into the bathroom. I needed to wash the feeling of his hug off my skin. As I reached for a towel, something caught my eye. There, wedged between the baseboard and the cabinet, was a tiny glint of gold. I knelt down and picked it up. It was a small hoop earring with a little pearl drop. I recognized it immediately. I had complimented Vanessa on these earrings last week. Vintage, she had told me. My grandmother's. She must have dropped it. Here. In my master bathroom. I stood up, staring at the earring in my palm. This wasn't just evidence, it was a violation. She had been in my bathroom. She had probably used my shower. Used my products. I wanted to march downstairs and throw it at him. I wanted to scream, "Did she have fun in my shower, Derek?" But Janice's voice echoed in my head, "You are a gray rock. You are gathering intel." I opened my makeup bag, took out a small Ziploc bag I used for cotton swabs, and dropped the earring inside. I hid the bag deep in the inner pocket of my suitcase. Evidence number 1. I took the hottest shower I could stand, scrubbing my skin until it was pink. When I came out, Derek was making coffee. "So," he said, handing me a mug. I was thinking. "Since you're back, maybe we can look at those investment portfolios later? The ones for the inheritance? I found this really great opportunity in crypto." I almost laughed. It was so transparent now. Before, I would have thought he was just being eager. Now, I saw the desperation. "Not today, Derek," I said, sipping the coffee. It tasted bitter. "I have a headache. And honestly, I'm thinking of keeping the inheritance in bonds for now. The market is too volatile." I saw a flicker of annoyance in his eyes. Just a micro-expression, gone in an instant, replaced by concern. "Sure, babe. Whatever you think is best. You're the finance genius. I just want to make sure we're maximizing our future." Our future. "I'm going to go lay down," I said. "I have a lot of work to catch up on later." "On a Saturday?" he whined. "CFO life," I said flatly. "Gotta pay the bills." I walked away before he could see the look of pure hatred on my face. The mask was holding, but it was heavy. Once I was safely barricaded in my home office, the same office where Derek had bragged about having sex with Vanessa, I locked the door. I stared at the desk. The leather chair. I felt a wave of nausea, but I shoved it down. I grabbed a bottle of disinfectant wipes from the closet and scrubbed every inch of the desk, the chair, the keyboard. I scrubbed until the chemical smell burned my nose. It was symbolic as much as it was sanitary. I was reclaiming my territory. Then, I went to work. I am a data person. I deal in spreadsheets, audits, and paper trails. If Derek thought he was clever, he was vastly underestimating the skill set required to manage the finances of a mid-sized corporation. I waited until I heard the TV turn on downstairs. Derek was watching football. He would be distracted for hours. I opened my laptop. First, I needed access to his digital life. We shared a phone plan, which gave me access to call logs, but I needed the content. I needed the texts. Derek had an iPad that he usually left charging in the kitchen, but sometimes he brought it into the office. I looked around. It wasn't there. I crept out to the hallway. It was on the console table, plugged in. I grabbed it and slipped back into the office. Passcode. He had changed it recently. It used to be our anniversary, 1014. I tried it. Incorrect passcode. Of course. I thought about the conversation I overheard. Vanessa. I tried her birthday. I knew it because I bought her a gift every year. March 12, 0312. Incorrect passcode. Okay. Think, Meredith. What does a narcissist love? Himself? No, he loves the affair. The thrill. I tried the date they supposedly started. He said 3 years. 3 years ago was the year he quit his job. It was also the year we went to Cabo, a trip he spent mostly on his phone. I tried the date of the Cabo trip. Incorrect. I paused. Then I remembered something. Last week, I saw him unlock his phone. He had traced a pattern, but on the iPad, it was numbers. I remembered his finger hitting the middle of the screen first. 5. I tried a generic one. 5,555, no. Then it hit me. The boys' group chat. He was obsessed with his college days. His jersey number was 12. Jason's was 80. Kyle's was... I didn't know. I took a deep breath. What if it was just simple stupidity? What if it was just Vanessa's house number? She lived at 420 Oak Street. I typed 0420. The screen unlocked. I almost laughed out loud. He was so lazy. He used the house number of his mistress. I went straight to iMessage. My hands flew. I found the thread with Vanessa, love. I didn't read it yet. I didn't want to torture myself. I just hit select, scrolled up to the beginning of time, which took forever, and forwarded the entire chat history to a new, secret email address I had created that morning. Then I found the group chat. The Wolf Pack. This one I skimmed. Derek, the old ball and chain, is out of town this weekend. Party at my place. Kyle, is Ness coming? Derek, obviously. She's bringing the good tequila. Meredith only buys that organic wine crap. Jason, did you ask her about the money yet? Derek, working on it. She's being slow with the transfer. I think she's suspecting something. No, she's just slow. Too busy working. I screenshotted everything. Every insult. Every admission of the affair. Every discussion about my money. Then I went to his photos. This was a mistake. I shouldn't have looked. But I did. Selfies of him and Vanessa in my bed. Photos of them at dinner at a restaurant I had been dying to try, date stamped on nights he told me he was working late. Photos of expensive gifts, handbags, jewelry, shoes that I recognized from our credit card statements. He had listed them as client gifts on the expense spreadsheet he gave me. He had bought his mistress a Louis Vuitton bag with my salary and told me it was a closing gift for a real estate client. I felt a cold fury rising. This wasn't just adultery. This was embezzlement. He was stealing marital funds to support his affair. In a court of law, this was gold. This was dissipation of assets. I uploaded every single photo to a secure cloud drive. I checked his email. I searched for flight confirmation emails for a trip to Bali. 2 tickets. 1 for Derek Miller. 1 for Vanessa Tate. The dates were for next month, 3 days after my inheritance was scheduled to clear probate. He really had it all planned out. He was going to cash out my aunt's legacy, divorce me, and fly off into the sunset with my best friend. I forwarded the flight confirmation. I put the iPad back exactly where I found it, wiped my fingerprints off the screen with my sleeve, and went back to the office. I sat there, staring at my computer screen. The folder I had named Project Phoenix was now full of incriminating evidence. I had proof of infidelity. I had proof of intent to divorce. I had proof of financial dissipation. But I needed more. I needed to know the full extent of the financial damage. If he was buying bags and booking trips, what else was he doing? I logged into our main banking portal. I had access to everything, or so I thought. I started digging into the transaction history of our home equity line of credit, Helic. We had opened it years ago for emergency home repairs, but the balance should have been 0. I clicked on the account. My breath hitched. The balance wasn't 0. It was $150,000. $150,000. I stared at the number on the screen, blinking rapidly, hoping it was a glitch. Maybe a decimal point error? But no. The red numbers glared back at me, mocking my naivety. Minus $150,000.00. How? How is this possible? I monitored our accounts. I paid the bills. I clicked on the transaction history, my hands shaking so badly I could barely control the mouse. The withdrawals had started 18 months ago. Small amounts at first, $5,000 here, $2,000 there. Transfers to an account labeled LLC investment. Then larger chunks. $20,000. $50,000. I didn't recognize the receiving account. I searched the bank's document center for the transfer authorizations. There, on the screen, was a PDF of a wire transfer request form. And at the bottom, my signature. It was a good forgery. A really good one. But I knew my M. I looped it a certain way. This M was sharp, jagged. He had forged my signature. He had gone into the bank, probably the branch where his buddy worked, and authorized these transfers using my name. This wasn't just lying. This was a felony. This was fraud. I dug deeper. What was DNV Ventures LLC? I searched the state business registry. It took me 2 minutes. DNV Ventures LLC. Registered agent, Derek Miller. Co-owner, Vanessa Tate. Address, 420 Oak Street. He had taken equity out of our home, the home I paid the mortgage on, to fund a business with his mistress. And it got worse. I looked at the property records. DNV Ventures had purchased a property 6 months ago. A condo downtown. The investment property he had told me about? He had bought it. But not for us. He bought it under the LLC. He was using my house to buy their love nest. If we divorced now, the debt on our house was marital debt. I would be liable for half of that $150,000. And the condo? Since it was owned by an LLC, he would try to hide it, or claim it was a business asset that had no value. He was planning to leave me with the debt while keeping the asset. I felt like I was going to throw up. The betrayal of the affair was painful, visceral. But this? This was cold-blooded calculation. This was stealing my labor, my sweat, the hours I spent in the office missing birthdays and anniversaries. He had stolen my life to build his new one. I printed everything. The bank statements. The transfer forms with the fake signatures. The business registry. The deed to the condo. I was printing so many documents the printer started to whine. Suddenly, a knock on the office door made me jump. Meredith? Derek's voice. You okay in there? You've been in there for hours. I'm getting hungry. I froze. I quickly minimized the windows. I threw a spreadsheet up on the screen, a budget report for work. I'm fine. I called out, my voice shrill. I cleared my throat. Just a crisis with the quarter-end numbers. I need to focus. Okay, well, I'm gonna order pizza, he shouted through the door. Pepperoni? Fine, I said. He walked away. I slumped back in my chair. Pizza. He was ordering pizza while I was discovering he had stolen $150,000 from me. I looked at the stack of papers. This changed everything. Janice was right. I couldn't just divorce him. If I filed for a standard divorce, he would fight. He would drag it out. He would spend every remaining cent we had on lawyers. I needed to trap him. I needed him to sign something that waived his rights to everything before he knew I knew. But how? How do you get a narcissist to give up money? You appeal to their greed. I remembered something he had said in the hallway. Once that cash hits the shared account. He was waiting for the inheritance. That was the carrot. I picked up my phone and dialed Janice, keeping my voice to a whisper. "It's worse," I said as soon as she picked up. "He forged my signature. He took $150,000 out of the house. He bought a condo with Vanessa." "That son of a b****, Janice hissed. "Meredith, that's prison time." "I know. But if I send him to prison, I get stuck with the debt. The bank doesn't care if he cheated. They just want their money. So what do we do?" "I have an idea," I said, my mind racing. "He wants the inheritance, right? He thinks I'm stupid. He thinks I'm a finance nerd who worries about taxes." "Yeah? I'm going to propose a postnuptial agreement," I said. "But I'm going to sell it as a way to protect us from taxes. I'll tell him that to shield the inheritance from estate taxes, we need to separate our assets. I'll offer to take the risky assets, the house and the retirement funds, and give him the liquid assets." "But the liquid assets are the inheritance," Janice said. "You're going to give him the money?" "No," I said coldly. "I'm going to give him the promise of the money. But the agreement will say he gets the inheritance only after it clears the joint account. But I'll make sure he signs away the house and the retirement accounts now." "And then you never put the inheritance in the joint account," Janice realized. "Exactly. He signs away the house thinking he's about to get $1 million cash. Then, I file for divorce, reveal the fraud, and he gets nothing. Not the house. Not the condo. And definitely not the inheritance." "That is diabolical," Janice said. I could hear the smile in her voice. "I love it. I need Mr. Henderson to draft it," I said. "I need it to look legitimate. I need it to look like I'm trying to help him." "Call him Monday," Janice said. "Get some sleep, Meredith. You're going to need your strength. You're living with a viper." "I'm not living with a viper," I whispered, looking at the printer tray full of evidence. "I am the mongoose." Monday morning, I told Derek I had an early client meeting downtown. Instead, I drove to the glass and steel skyscraper that housed the law firm of Henderson, Tate and Locke. Mr. Henderson was a legend in our city. He was known as the Grim Reaper of matrimony. He was expensive, intimidating, and exactly what I needed. His office smelled of mahogany and fear. He sat behind a desk that was probably worth more than my car, wearing a suit that cost more than Derek's entire wardrobe. He was an older man, silver-haired, with eyes that looked like they had seen every lie humanity was capable of telling. "Mrs. Miller," he said, not standing up. "You have 30 minutes. Impress me." I didn't waste time crying. I didn't tell him the sob story about the hallway. I opened my briefcase and laid out the spreadsheet I had created Sunday night. "My husband is cheating," I said. "He is also embezzling marital funds. He forged my signature on a $150,000 helic. He used that money to buy a property under an LLC with his mistress. He is waiting for my inheritance to clear probate to divorce me and take half." Mr. Henderson picked up the spreadsheet. He scanned it. He paused at the screenshot of the forged signature. He looked at the LLC registration. "He's sloppy," Henderson muttered. "He's arrogant," I corrected. "He thinks I'm stupid." Henderson looked up. A faint smile played on his lips. "And are you?" "I'm the CFO of Sterling Logistics," I said. "I found all of this in 24 hours. "Good." He leaned back. "What do you want? You want to send him to jail? We can do that. Forgery is serious. If he goes to jail, I'm left with the debt and a messy foreclosure," I said. "I don't want him in jail yet. I want him broke." I want my house back. I want my retirement secure. And I want him to leave with absolutely nothing but the debt he created. Scorched earth, Henderson nodded. My favorite flavor. I have a plan, I said. A post-nuptial agreement. I outlined the tax shelter strategy one had discussed with Janice. Henderson listened, his fingers steepled. You want to bait him with the inheritance, Henderson summarized. You want him to sign over his interest in the marital home and waive any claim to your retirement accounts in exchange for a future claim on the inheritance cash, which you will never deposit. Can you draft it? I asked. Can you make it look like a standard asset restructuring for tax purposes? Something that appeals to his greed? I can draft anything, Henderson said. But the trick isn't the document. It's the psychology. You have to sell it. If he smells a rat, he won't sign. He'll get his own lawyer, and any decent lawyer will tell him not to sign this. He won't get a lawyer, I said confidently. He doesn't want to spend the money. And he thinks he's smarter than me. If I present it as my way of trying to save us money, he'll sign it. He's greedy, Mr. Henderson. Greed makes people blind. Henderson pulled a yellow legal pad toward him. We'll include a bad boy clause, he said, scribbling. Usually these clauses say if one party cheats, they lose assets. But we'll flip it. We'll make it look like a bad girl clause to make him feel safe. We'll say that the inheritance is his unless you file for divorce due to adultery. But I am filing for divorce due to adultery, I said. Exactly, Henderson smirked. But he thinks you don't know. So he'll read that and think, great, she doesn't know, so I'm safe to sign. He'll think he's tricking you. He'll sign the clause thinking it protects him, but it actually hangs him. I felt a shiver of admiration. This man was dangerous. We need to move fast, I said. He expects the money in 3 weeks. I'll have the draft ready by tomorrow, Henderson said. It will be titled Asset Protection and Tax Minimization Agreement. It will look very boring. Very financial. Just the way you say he sees you. Perfect. One more thing, Henderson said, his eyes turning hard. Once he signs this, you have to pull the trigger immediately. You can't wait. As soon as the ink is dry, we file the divorce papers and the fraud evidence. If you wait, a judge might throw out the postnup as coercion. I'm planning a party, I said. Our 10th anniversary is in 10 days. I'm going to make him sign it before the party. And then, at the party. Let me guess, Henderson interrupted. A public reveal? Something like that. Henderson chuckled. I usually advise against theatrics. It complicates litigation. But in this case, with the forgery? Do what you want. We have him by the throat. I stood up to leave. Thank you, Mr. Henderson. Mrs. Miller, he said. Don't sign anything yourself until I review it. And keep playing the role. If he suspects you know, the deal is off. Don't worry, I said, gripping my purse strap. I'm the best actor in the family. I walked out of that office feeling lighter than I had in days. I had a plan. I had a shark. And I had a trap set for the rat. Now, all I had to do was go home and cook dinner for the man who was stealing my life. The night I presented the postnuptial agreement to Derek, I cooked his favorite meal, steak au poivre with truffle mashed potatoes. It was the same meal I had made the night he proposed to me. The symbolism was intentional. I wanted him comfortable. I wanted him fat, happy, and confident. I had spent the afternoon with Mr. Henderson finalizing the document. It was a masterpiece of legal misdirection. Titled Marital Asset Restructuring and Estate Tax Mitigation Strategy, it was 50 pages of dense legalese that boiled down to a simple trade. I kept the house, the retirement accounts, and the cars now. He got the rights to 70% of the future inheritance later, upon the condition that we remained married and the funds were deposited into a joint account. The bad girl clause, or what Henderson called the fidelity assurance provision, stated that if I filed for divorce without cause, he got everything. But if the marriage ended due to his proven infidelity or fraud, he got nothing. Derek wouldn't read that part closely. He would only see the 70% of inheritance figure. "This is amazing, babe," Derek said, cutting into the steak. He took a sip of the cab save I had poured him. "You really went all out." "I wanted to celebrate," I said, forcing a smile. "I've been crunching the numbers on Aunt Clara's estate. The tax implications are scary." Derek's ears perked up. "Taxes? How bad?" "Bad. If we commingle the funds with our current assets right away, we jump tax brackets. Plus, with the estate tax threshold." I threw out some jargon about capital gains and step-up basis that didn't actually make sense if you knew tax law, but sounded terrifying if you didn't. "So, what do we do?" he asked, putting his fork down. The greed was already swimming in his eyes. "I had the legal team at work draft a restructuring plan," I lied. I pulled the thick envelope out from under the table. "It separates our current assets, the house, the 401ks, from the future influx of cash. Basically, I take the heavy assets now to lower your liability. Then, when the cash comes in next month, it goes into a trust where you are the primary beneficiary. It saves us about $40,000 in taxes." I slid the document across the table. Derek wiped his hands on the napkin and opened it. He flipped through the pages, his eyes glazing over at the whereas and heretofores. "So?" He frowned, trying to look smart. "You keep the house? And the retirement?" "Just on paper," I said, reaching across to touch his hand. My skin crawled, but I held on. "It's all still ours, Derek. But this way, on paper, your net worth looks lower before the inheritance hits. It maximizes the payout. Look here." I pointed to page 42. Section 8.1, Future Allocation. Husband shall be entitled to 70% of the liquid inheritance proceeds. His eyes widened. 70%? Why not 50-50? "Because I love you," I said, looking him dead in the eye. "And because you've been working so hard on the real estate business. I want you to have the capital to really launch DNV Ventures properly." He froze. I had dropped the name of his LLC. The one he started with Vanessa. You know about DNV Ventures?" he stammered. "Of course," I smiled sweetly. "I saw the mail. I know you wanted to surprise me with your success, so I didn't say anything. But I want to support it. This money will let you buy properties cash." He relaxed. He actually let out a breath. He thought I was supportive. He thought I was handing him the seed money for his life with Vanessa. And this clause, he pointed to the fidelity assurance. "Oh, the lawyers insisted on that," I waved a hand dismissively. "It just says if I go crazy and leave you for a pool boy, you get the money anyway. It protects you." He scanned it. He saw the words husband's rights protected. He didn't read the subclause about proven adultery. Why would he? In his mind, I didn't know. I was the stupid wife. "Wow," Derek said. "Meredith, this is really smart. You're a genius." "I try," I said. "We need to sign it before the weekend, though. Before the probate court finalizes the transfer." "Let's do it now," he said. He was practically vibrating. "Do we need a notary?" "I have a mobile notary coming over in 20 minutes, I checked my watch. Just to get it out of the way before the party." Derek laughed. He poured himself more wine. "You think of everything. 20 minutes later, the notary, a nice woman named Brenda who had no idea she was witnessing a man sign his own death warrant, arrived. Derek signed the papers with a flourish. He even cracked a joke about signing his life away. You have no idea, I thought. When Brenda stamped the seal, I felt a physical weight lift off my chest. The house was mine. The retirement funds, which I had been contributing to for a decade, were mine. He had just legally waived his rights to the only actual assets we had, in exchange for a percentage of 0. Because the inheritance money? It was never going into a joint account. The condition for his 70% payout would never be triggered. To us, Derek said, raising his glass again. To the future. To the future, I echoed. That night, he tried to initiate sex. I told him I had food poisoning from the truffle oil. I went to the guest room and locked the door. I lay there in the dark, clutching the signed agreement to my chest, and for the first time in a week, I slept like a baby. The trap was sprung. The rat was in the cage. Now, it was time to let everyone watch him squirm. The week leading up to the 10th anniversary party was a blur of surreal juxtaposition. On the surface, I was the devoted wife planning a gala in her own backyard. I was ordering catering, arranging flowers, and confirming the guest list. Underneath, I was a general preparing for a nuclear strike. I started moving things out of the house incrementally. I told Derek I was taking a load of old clothes to charity. In reality, buried under a layer of old sweaters, were my jewelry box, my grandmother's silver, my passport, and every important document I owned. I drove them straight to a safety deposit box at a bank across town, one Derek didn't know existed. I also visited the bank regarding the Helic fraud. I sat down with the fraud department manager, a stern woman named Ms. Alvarez. I showed her the forged documents. I want to file an affidavit of forgery, I told her. But I don't want the account frozen until Monday morning. Mrs. Miller, this is a crime, she said. We usually act immediately. I know, I said. But the perpetrator is my husband. I am handling this civilly first. Just have the paperwork ready to execute on Monday. Please. She looked at me, saw the dark circles I was trying to hide with concealer, and nodded. Monday morning. 9 a.m. Then came the guest list management. I made sure Vanessa was coming. I sent her a special text. Hey Ness. Can't wait for Saturday. I'm going to make a special speech about friendship and love. I really want you front and center. She replied instantly, "Ah. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Love you." The audacity was breathtaking. She was sleeping with my husband, spending my money, and texting me "love you" with heart emojis. I also confirmed Derek's parents were coming. His mother, Linda, had never liked me. She thought I was too career-focused and not domestic enough for her precious son. She constantly made passive-aggressive comments about my cooking or my long hours. I wanted her there. I wanted her to see exactly what her perfect boy had been up to. On Thursday, Vanessa came over to help me choose a dress. This was the ultimate test of my gray rock endurance. She walked into my bedroom, our bedroom, like she owned it. She sat on the bed where she had slept with my husband. You should wear the red one, she said, holding up a dress that was a little too tight for me. Derek loves red. I think I'll stick with the black silk, I said. It's classic. It's a little funeral, Vanessa wrinkled her nose. Maybe that's the vibe I'm going for, I muttered, turning away to hide my smirk. What? Nothing. Just stressed about the party. Don't be. Vanessa bounced off the bed and hugged me. I felt her cheap perfume, vanilla bean, cloying and suffocating. It's going to be a night to remember. 10 years. That's a huge milestone. It certainly is, I said, extricating myself from her arms. By the way, Vanessa, have you seen a gold earring? I found one cleaning up the other day. I watched her face closely. Her eyes widened for a fraction of a second, then she composed herself. Oh. No. What kind? Just a cheap hoop, I lied. Probably threw it out. Yeah, probably just junk, she laughed nervously. Friday night, I did the final tech check. I had rented a high-lumen projector and a massive outdoor screen. For a slideshow of our memories, I told Derek. Make sure you include the Cabo photos, Derek said, puffing on a cigar on the patio. He was already celebrating his imaginary millions. Oh, don't worry, I said, patting the iPad in my hand. I have included all the important photos. I had edited the video myself. I used to edit marketing reels for work, so I knew how to cut audio and sync it with images. It started with our wedding photos, sweet music playing, and then it would glitch. I tested the audio file. Derek's voice, clear as day, she's too stupid to realize. It sent shivers down my spine every time I heard it. But it wasn't pain anymore. It was fuel. I looked at Derek, sitting there in the twilight, confident, arrogant, utterly oblivious. He had no idea that the ground beneath his feet had already crumbled away. He was standing on thin air, waiting for gravity to notice. You okay, babe? He asked, catching me staring. Just taking it all in, I said softly. This house. This life. It's fragile, isn't it? Not anymore, he grinned, thinking of the postnup. We're solid as a rock. Solid as a rock, I repeated. I went inside and sent one final email to Mr. Henderson. Subject, green light. Body, the party is at 7 p.m. Have the process server waiting down the street at 8:30 p.m. The stage was set. The players were in place. Tomorrow, the curtain would rise, and I would burn the theater down. The evening of the party was perfect. The weather gods had delivered a balmy, star-filled night. The caterers were circulating with trays of lobster sliders and champagne. String lights twinkled in the oak trees, casting a warm, romantic glow over the backyard. It looked like a fairy tale. It felt like a funeral. I wore the black silk dress. I had engaged a professional makeup artist to make me look fierce, sharp-winged eyeliner, blood-red lips. When I walked downstairs, Derek actually did a double take. Wow, he said. You look intense. I feel powerful, I said, adjusting my diamond studs. Let's go greet our guests. The yard filled up quickly. There were about 50 people. Derek's frat boy friends, Kyle and Jason, were by the bar, already loud. My colleagues were there, looking polite. Derek's parents, Linda and Bob, held court near the buffet. Meredith, Linda sniffed as I approached. The lobster is a bit chewy. And you look tired. Are you working too much again? I'm actually retiring from my current role as wife very soon, Linda, I said sweetly. What? She frowned. I said I'm hiring a new team for work soon, I corrected smoothly. Enjoy the sliders. Then Vanessa arrived. She was wearing a sparkling silver dress that was basically a disco ball. She clung to Derek's arm a little too long when she said hello. Happy anniversary, she squealed, handing us a bottle of wine. To my favorite couple. Thanks, Ness, Derek beamed. He looked at me, then at her. The look they exchanged, a quick, conspiratorial glance of lust and secret knowledge, made my stomach turn. But I didn't look away. I stared right at them until Vanessa fidgeted. Is the slideshow starting soon? Vanessa asked. Very soon, I promised. At 8 p.m., Derek clinked his glass with a spoon. The crowd hushed. He stepped up to the small microphone stand we had set up in front of the giant screen. Thank you all for coming, he began, putting on his best doting husband voice. He wrapped an arm around my waist, pulling me close. My skin crawled, but I stood rigid. 10 years, Derek continued. They say marriage is hard work. But with Meredith, it's been an adventure. She supports my dreams. She stands by me. And I like to think I keep her grounded. A few chuckles from the crowd. Kyle and Jason hooted. We've built a life here, Derek said, gesturing to the house, my house. And we are looking forward to the next chapter. A chapter of growth, abundance, and new beginnings. He looked at Vanessa when he said new beginnings. I saw it. I knew what it meant. To Meredith, he raised his glass. My rock. To Meredith, the crowd echoed. He handed the mic to me. He expected me to say something sweet, maybe thank everyone, and then play the montage of our vacations. I took the microphone. It felt heavy and cold in my hand. I looked out at the sea of faces. I saw Linda looking critical. I saw Vanessa looking smug. I saw Derek looking victorious. I took a breath. This was it. The point of no return. Thank you, Derek, I said, my voice steady and amplified across the silent yard. That was truly a performance. Derek frowned slightly. You talk about support, I continued, stepping away from him. You talk about honesty. You talk about the future. And you're right. The truth is the most important thing in a marriage. And for the last 3 years, there has been so much hidden truth. The air in the yard shifted. People sensed the tone change. The smiles faltered. So, I said, reaching for the iPad on the podium. I prepared a video. I didn't want to just show you photos of our vacations. I wanted to show you the real Derek. The Derek that I didn't know until last week. The Derek that his best friends know. The Derek that Vanessa knows. Vanessa dropped her wine glass. It shattered on the patio pavers, the sound sharp and shocking. Smash. Red wine splattered on her silver dress. Oops, I said, not looking at her. Clumsy. I looked directly into the camera lens of the videographer I had hired. Yes, I hired someone to record this. Then I looked at the audience, at you, the people listening to my story. This is the moment. My hand hovered over the play button. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I knew that once I pressed this, I would be the villain in their eyes for a moment, before I became the hero. I was terrified. But I was also ready. If you are still listening, if you are with me on this porch, holding your breath, please, do me a huge favor. Like this video and comment the number 1 below. Let me know you're standing here with me. Your support is the only thing keeping my knees from buckling. Comment 1 if you want me to press play. Okay. You ready? I looked at Derek. His face had gone pale. He knew something was wrong. Meredith, he whispered. What are you doing? Showing them the receipts, Derek, I said. And I pressed play. The screen flared to life. It started innocently enough, a photo of our wedding day. The crowd relaxed slightly. Then, the music cut out abruptly with the sound of a record scratch. The screen went black. Then, audio filled the yard. It was loud. Crystal clear. She's too stupid to realize I've been sleeping with Vanessa right under her nose. The voice was unmistakably Derek's. Slurred, arrogant, cruel. Gasps rippled through the crowd like a wave. Linda covered her mouth with her hand. Derek froze, his eyes bulging. She's not a wife, boys. She's a walking ATM. On the screen, the black faded to a screenshot. It was the group chat, the Wolf Pack. Derek, Just need to wait for the inheritance to clear. Then we dump the old bag and hit Bali. Kyle, you're savage, bro. I looked at Kyle. He was trying to shrink behind a potted plant. Then came the photos. A photo of Derek and Vanessa in a hotel bed, champagne glasses in hand. A photo of Vanessa wearing a diamond necklace. Next to it, I had photoshopped the credit card statement showing the charge, $2,500, Tiffany & Company cardholder, Meredith Miller. Oh my God, someone whispered. Turn it off! Derek screamed. He lunged for the iPad. Don't touch me! I shouted into the mic, my voice booming. You wanted the spotlight, Derek? Take it! The screen changed again. This was the killer blow. It was a split screen. On the left, the document for the $150,000 Helic loan. On the right, a close-up of the signature line. And below it, a video clip, taken from our home security camera in the office which Derek forgot existed, of him sitting at my desk, practicing my signature on a notepad. Practice makes perfect, the Derek in the video muttered. The silence in the yard was absolute. It was the silence of a grave. He stole $150,000 from this house, I narrated live, pointing a shaking finger at him. He forged my signature. He committed felony bank fraud. And he used that money to buy a condo for her. The screen flashed a photo of the deed, DNV Ventures. Co-owner, Vanessa Tate. All eyes turned to Vanessa. She was standing in a puddle of wine, shaking, mascara running down her face. You liar! Vanessa screamed, but it was weak. He told me you had an open marriage. He told me you didn't care. And you believed him? I laughed, a cold, harsh sound. You've been my best friend for 5 years, Vanessa. You ate at my table. You held my hand when my aunt died. And all the while, you were plotting to spend her money. I turned to Derek's parents. Linda was sobbing into Bob's shoulder. Bob looked like he was about to have a heart attack. Linda, I said, lowering the mic but keeping my voice loud enough. You always said I wasn't domestic enough. I guess I was too busy working to pay for your son's mistress. I hope you're proud of the man you raised. Derek finally snapped out of his shock. His face twisted into a mask of pure rage. He grabbed my arm. You bitch, he snarled. You ruined everything. Turn it off. Get your hands off her. The voice came from the side gate. It was my brother, Mike, and 2 large men in black uniforms, private security I had hired. Let go of me, I said calmly, looking at Derek's hand on my arm. Or I add assault to the list of charges. Derek let go as if burned. He looked around. His friends were avoiding his gaze. His parents were ashamed. His mistress was ruined. Everyone out, I said into the mic, the party is over. Except for Derek and Vanessa. You two stay right there. We have business. The guests scattered like cockroaches when the lights turn on. They grabbed their purses, left their half-eaten food, and fled. Within 5 minutes, the yard was empty except for the security guards, my brother, and the 2 traders. I walked over to the projector and pulled the plug. The silence that followed was ringing in my ears. You think you're so smart, Derek spat, his voice trembling. But you signed the postnup. I get the inheritance. I get 70%. I smiled. It was the smile of the shark from Mr. Henderson's office. Oh, Derek, I said softly. You really should have read the fidelity assurance clause. Derek stared at me, his brow furrowed in confusion. The what? The clause, Derek. Section 12, paragraph 4. In the event that the marriage is dissolved due to proven adultery or fraud by the husband, all rights to future assets are forfeit, and all rights to marital assets are waived. I pulled a copy of the signed agreement from my purse, I had kept it on me all night, and slapped it against his chest. You signed it, I said. You admitted to adultery on tape. You committed fraud on tape. You just signed away the house, your car, and your claim to my retirement. And the inheritance? It's never touching a joint account, so you get 0% of that, too. Derek read the paper, his hands shaking so hard the paper rattled. The color drained from his face until he looked like a sheet of paper. No, he whispered. No, no, no. You tricked me. I outsmarted you, I corrected. There's a difference. This won't hold up in court. Vanessa shrieked. She had stopped crying and moved to anger. It's coercion. Actually, a deep voice boomed from the driveway. Mr. Henderson walked in, looking like the Grim Reaper in an Armani suit. He was followed by a process server. It is a perfectly legal document, signed before a notary, with full disclosure, Henderson said. He nodded to the server, who stepped forward and handed papers to Derek and Vanessa. Derek Miller, you are served with divorce papers and a restraining order, the server said. Vanessa Tate, you are served with a lawsuit for alienation of affection, yes, we still have that in this state, and civil conspiracy to commit fraud. Alienation of affection? Vanessa screeched. Are you kidding me? I'm suing you for the money you helped him steal, I said. Every penny spent on dinners, hotels, and those ugly earrings you're wearing. I want it back. Get out, I said to Derek. This is my house, he blustered, trying to regain some dominance. Not anymore, I pointed to the driveway. Your bags are on the lawn. I packed them myself. I might have missed a few things, like your dignity, but I think you lost that years ago. You can't just kick me out. The restraining order says I can, I said. You are to remain 500 feet away from me and my property. The curb is 50 feet away. Start walking. The security guards stepped forward, crossing their massive arms. Derek looked at them, then at me. He realized he had no moves left. He was checkmated. Fine, he spat. I don't need you. I have the business. I have the condo. About that, I called out as he started walking away. I reported the fraudulent loan to the bank on Monday. They've frozen the DNV Ventures account. And since the condo was bought with stolen funds, well, the bank is foreclosing on it next week. Derek stopped. He turned around slowly. The look on his face wasn't anger anymore. It was pure, unadulterated terror. He looked at Vanessa. You said the LLC was safe, he whispered to her. I didn't know she was a forensic accountant. Vanessa yelled back. Get off my property, I said, my voice dropping to a growl. Both of you. Before I let the guards earn their bonus. I watched them walk down the driveway. It was pathetic. Derek dragged 2 suitcases with broken wheels, the old ones I kept in the attic. Vanessa hobbled in her high heels, clutching her purse, wine stains ruining her dress. Neighbors were watching. I saw curtains twitching. I saw Mrs. Higgins across the street standing on her porch with her phone out, filming. Good. Let them watch. When they reached the street, Derek tried to open his car door. It was locked. Keys, I said, holding up his key fob. The car is in my name. I paid the lease. You can Uber. He kicked the tire, screaming a curse word that echoed through the quiet neighborhood. I turned around and walked back toward the house. My brother Mike was grinning. That, Mike said, was the most brutal thing I have ever seen. Remind me never to piss you off. Help me clean up the wine glass, I said, my adrenaline finally crashing. I felt my knees go weak. Mike caught me. I got you, sis, he said. I looked at the empty yard, the flickering screen, the uneaten food. My marriage was over. My house was empty. But as I took a deep breath of the night air, I realized it didn't smell like vanilla bean or bourbon anymore. It smelled like freedom. The next few weeks were a masterclass in consequences. I didn't have to do much, I just sat back and watched the dominoes I had tipped over fall, one by one. First came the employment fallout. Derek worked for a mid-sized real estate firm. They relied heavily on reputation. I hadn't planned on getting him fired, but the bank investigation triggered a background check. When the bank flagged him for suspected wire fraud, his employer was notified. Also, I may have forwarded the email thread where he used his work email to book the Bali trip and discuss hiding assets. I sent it to the HR director with the subject line, FYI, company resources usage. He was fired on a Tuesday. He called me 10 times that day. I blocked the number. Then came the financial stranglehold. Because of the post-nup and the fraud investigation, all joint accounts were frozen. Derek had no access to cash. He had no credit cards because he was an authorized user on my accounts, and I had cut him off the morning of the party. I heard through the grapevine, aka Kyle, who was desperate to apologize and save his own skin, that Derek was living in his parents' basement. Imagine that. A 36-year-old man who thought he was going to be a millionaire, now sleeping on a pull-out couch under his mother's sewing table. Mr. Henderson called me with an update on the condo. The bank has seized the property, he sounded cheerful. Since the down payment was proven to be stolen funds, the LLC has no standing. The bank will sell it to recoup the loan. Derek and Vanessa are on the hook for the difference. And the loan on my house? I asked anxiously. Because we filed the affidavit of forgery so quickly, the bank has agreed to absolve you of liability for the helic, Henderson explained. They are going after Derek personally for the $150,000. He's looking at criminal charges if he doesn't pay it back. He can't pay it back, I said. He has nothing. Then he declares bankruptcy, Henderson said. Or he negotiates a plea deal. Either way, Mrs. Miller, your house is safe. Your retirement is safe. You are clean. I hung up the phone and cried. Not sad tears. Relief tears. I had walked through fire and come out unburned. But the most satisfying part was the silence. The absence of lies. I woke up in the morning, and the house was mine. I drank coffee without wondering who he was texting. I went to work without worrying if he was sneaking women into my office. I started a renovation on the man cave. I ripped out the leather chairs, the dartboard, the bar. I painted the walls a soft sage green. I turned it into a yoga studio and reading nook. I burned the bourbon-soaked rug in the fire pit. One afternoon, I was at the grocery store when I ran into Linda, Derek's mom. She looked aged. Tired. She saw me and tried to turn her cart around, but I was blocking the aisle. Hello, Linda, I said politely. Meredith, she clipped. She looked at my basket, organic vegetables, good wine, expensive cheese. Then she looked at hers, generic brand soup, white bread. How is he? I asked. I didn't care, but I wanted to see her squirm. He's having a hard time, Linda said, her voice trembling with indignation. You were very cruel, Meredith. You didn't have to humiliate him like that. You didn't have to ruin his life. I didn't ruin his life, Linda, I said, leaning in over the handle of my cart. He ruined it when he decided to steal from me and sleep with my best friend. I just turned on the lights. He cries every day, she whispered. He misses you. He misses my money, I corrected. Tell him I said hello. And tell him the process server is looking for him regarding the credit card fraud. I walked away, leaving her standing next to the canned peas. I realized then that I wasn't just free of Derek. I was free of their entire toxic family dynamic. I didn't have to apologize for being successful anymore. You know what happens when two parasites run out of a host? They start feeding on each other. The romance between Derek and Vanessa lasted exactly as long as the illusion of money did. Once the bank seized the condo and Derek was fired, the love of a lifetime evaporated faster than a puddle in Arizona. Vanessa was in bad shape. My lawsuit against her for the money spent on gifts was aggressive. I garnished her wages. She worked as a dental hygienist. Every paycheck she got, 25% went straight to me to pay back the Tiffany necklace and the Louis Vuitton bag. Her reputation was also shredded. In our medium-sized town, the video from the party had circulated. People talk. The dental practice she worked for let her go because patients were uncomfortable. She had to move 2 towns over to find work. Kyle, in his attempt to get back in my good graces, pathetic, sent me screenshots of their Facebook fights. Vanessa posted, "Real men don't lie about their finances." #broke #loser. Derek commented, "At least I didn't sleep with my best friend's husband for a handbag. You're a gold digger without a shovel." Vanessa, I hope you enjoy your mom's basement. Don't forget to take out the trash, since you are trash. It was a train wreck. And I had a front row seat. I heard from a mutual friend that the final blow-up happened at a TGI Fridays. Apparently, Derek's card got declined for a $40 tab. Vanessa screamed at him that he was useless. He screamed at her that she was the reason he got caught, because of the earring. Yes, he figured that out. She threw a drink in his face. He called the police. They both ended up with disorderly conduct citations. It was poetic justice. They deserved each other, but they couldn't stand each other. One night, my phone buzzed. A blocked number. "Hello? Meredith?" It was Vanessa. Her voice was small, teary. "What do you want, Vanessa?" I wanted to say I'm sorry," she sobbed. "He manipulated me. He told me you guys were basically roommates. He told me you were mean to him. I didn't know." "You knew," I said calmly. "You knew when you sat at my table. You knew when you dropped that earring in my bathroom. You got a thrill out of hurting me. Please," she begged. "Can you drop the lawsuit? I can't pay rent. I'm living in a studio apartment with cockroaches. I've lost everything." "You stole $20,000 worth of my life, Vanessa," I said. "You can pay it back $200 at a time. Consider it a tuition fee for learning how to be a decent human being." "You're a monster," she screamed, the mask slipping instantly. "Goodbye, Vanessa." I hung up and blocked the number again. I sat on my back porch, looking at the stars. I wasn't a monster. I was just a woman who had finally learned the value of consequences. For too long, I had been the one cleaning up messes, smoothing things over, paying the bills. I stopped. And when I stopped, their world collapsed because I was the only thing holding it up. 3 months later. It was a rainy Tuesday evening. I was curled up in the newly renovated reading nook, formerly the man cave, reading a book and drinking tea. My life was quiet, peaceful, and mine. The doorbell rang. I checked the security camera on my phone. My breath hitched. It was Derek. But not the Derek I knew. He looked deflated. He had gained weight. His hair was thinning and unkempt. He was wearing a jacket that looked too big for him and soaking wet jeans. He looked like a stray dog. I debated not answering. The restraining order had expired last week. I didn't renew it because he had moved out of the county. Curiosity got the better of me. Or maybe it was the need for closure. I opened the door, leaving the security chain on. "What do you want?" I asked through the crack. Derek looked up. His eyes were red-rimmed. Meredith. Hi. Go away, Derek. Please, he said, his voice cracking. Just 5 minutes. I'm not here to fight. I just need to talk to you. We have nothing to talk about. The lawyers handled everything. I know, he wiped rain from his face. I wanted you to know. You were right. I paused. About what? About everything. About me being stupid. About Vanessa being a leech. About us. He sniffled. Meredith, I've hit rock bottom. I'm working at a warehouse. I'm living with my parents. I lost the only good thing I ever had. He looked at me through the gap, pleading. I miss you, he whispered. Not the money. I swear. I miss you. I miss your cooking. I miss watching movies. I miss my best friend. He started to cry. Ugly, heaving sobs. I was brainwashed, Mare. She got inside my head. She made me think I was unhappy. But I wasn't. We were happy, weren't we? Can't we try again? I'll sign a new postnup. I'll do anything. I just want to come home. I looked at him. Really looked at him. This was the man I had promised to love forever. This was the man who had called me stupid. This was the man who had plotted to steal my inheritance and run away to Bali. And now, here he was. Broken. Begging. A younger version of me, the Meredith from 4 months ago, might have felt pity. Might have opened the door. Might have believed that people can change. But that Meredith was gone. She died in the parking lot of a Walmart. I undid the chain. Derek's face lit up with hope. He stepped forward. Oh, thank God. Meredith, I promise. I opened the door fully, blocking the entrance with my body. Stop, I said. He stopped. You said I was too stupid to realize you were cheating, I said softly. He flinched. I was drunk. I didn't mean it. No, you were right, I said. I was stupid. I was stupid to trust you. I was stupid to support you. I was stupid to think you were capable of love. I leaned in closer. But here's the surprise, Derek. That stupid woman? She destroyed you. She took your house. She took your money. She took your pride. And now? She's closing the door. Meredith, please. I have nowhere to go. Go to Vanessa, I said. Oh wait, she hates you too. I love you, he screamed, desperate. No, Derek, I said, my voice cold as ice. You're just hungry. And the ATM is out of order. Permanently. I slammed the door in his face. I threw the deadbolt. Click. I watched on the camera as he stood there for a minute, staring at the wood. Then he slumped his shoulders, turned around, and walked back into the rain. I turned away from the door. I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel angry. I felt nothing. He was just a stranger now. A bad memory that was fading with the rain. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I sold the house. It was a beautiful house, but it held too many ghosts. Every corner reminded me of a lie. I sold it for a massive profit, thanks to the market and the renovations I had paid for. I bought a condo in the city. A penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the skyline. It was sleek, modern, and completely mine. No man cave. No suburban lawn to mow. Just light and air and height. My career skyrocketed. With the distraction of my deadweight husband gone, I focused entirely on my work. I was promoted to Senior VP of Finance. I traveled to London, to Tokyo, to Paris, not for Derek's fake business trips, but for real meetings where I commanded the room. I started dating again. Tentatively. I met a man named Julian. He was an architect. He was calm. He was kind. On our third date, the bill came. I reached for it automatically, habit. Julian gently stopped my hand. Meredith, I got it. I make more than you, I blurted out. Old defense mechanism. He laughed. A warm, genuine laugh. I know you do. You're a powerhouse. But I want to treat you. Not because you need it, but because I want to. It was such a simple thing, but I almost cried into my risotto. I told him about Derek eventually. Not everything, but enough. He sounds like a fool, Julian said simply. To have a partner like you and throw it away? He wasn't just mean, Meredith. He was an idiot. He called me stupid, I said. Well, Julian smiled, clinking his glass against mine. I think you proved him wrong. I was rebuilding. It wasn't always easy. I still had moments of trust issues. I checked Julian's phone once when he went to the bathroom, panic seizing me. I found nothing but texts to his mom and a Wordle score. I felt guilty, but I forgave myself. Trauma takes time. I also reconnected with my sister, Janice. We took a trip to Italy together, using the inheritance money that Derek had so desperately wanted. We drank wine in Tuscany, we ate pasta in Rome, and we laughed until our sides hurt. To Aunt Clara, Janice toasted one night on a balcony in Florence. To Aunt Clara, I smiled. And to the postnup. To the postnup. Janice roared. I realized that I was happy. Not the frantic, trying to please everyone happiness I had faked for years. But a deep, quiet, sturdy happiness. I knew who I was. I knew what I was capable of. I knew that if the world fell apart, I had the tools to put it back together. Looking back now, a year later, I can almost say I'm grateful for that night in the hallway. Almost. If I hadn't come home early. If I hadn't overheard them. I would still be the stupid wife. I would still be funding his lifestyle, unknowingly raising a viper in my bed. I would have lost my inheritance. I might have lost my self-respect forever. That moment of pain was the catalyst for my freedom. It forced me to stop being a passenger in my own life and take the wheel. I heard recently that Derek moved to another state to live with an uncle. He works in a call center now. Vanessa is apparently dating a guy twice her age who drives a Corvette. I wish him luck, he's going to need it. As for me? I'm sitting here in my beautiful apartment, recording this for you. I wanted to share this story not just for the drama, though, let's be honest, it was dramatic, but because I know there are women out there right now who feel like I did. Women who feel taken for granted. Women who feel like they are giving everything and getting nothing in return. Women who are being called stupid or boring or nagging by men who don't deserve to breathe their air. If that is you, listen to me. You are not stupid. You are trusting. There is a difference. But when that trust is broken, you have to wake up. You have to be smart. You have to protect yourself. Don't get mad. Get a lawyer. Get a forensic accountant. Get a plan. They think we are weak because we love them. They think we are blind because we choose to see the best in them. But they forget that the same heart that loves fiercely can protect itself fiercely. Derek thought I was an ATM. He forgot that ATMs have security cameras, lockboxes, and shutting down protocols. So, to my ex-husband, if you're somehow listening to this from your uncle's basement, you were right about one thing. I was a different person back then. But you were wrong about the ending. The stupid wife didn't lose. She won. She won everything. And to all of you listening, thank you for being my jury. Thank you for validating my anger and cheering for my victory. If you enjoyed seeing a cheater get exactly what he deserved, please give this video a thumbs up. Share it with a friend who needs a reminder of her own strength. And don't forget to subscribe. I have a feeling my new life is going to be full of stories, hopefully happier ones, and I'd love for you to be a part of it. Stay smart. Stay strong. And never, ever let them call you stupid. Goodbye for now. And so, as the storm settles and the dust clears, we are left with a powerful reminder of resilience, self-worth, and the strength that lies within us. This story is not just about betrayal and revenge, it is about rediscovering one's value, reclaiming one's power, and refusing to let others define our worth. It shows us that even in the face of heartbreak and deceit, we have the ability to rise, to rebuild, and to emerge stronger than ever. Life will test us, sometimes in the most painful and unexpected ways, but it's in those moments of darkness that we find our true strength. We learn that loving and trusting others does not make us weak, it makes us human. And when that trust is broken, we have the right, and the responsibility, to protect our hearts, our futures, and our dignity. What about you? How do you see yourself standing up when life challenges you? Share your thoughts below or comment good if this story inspired you to recognize your own strength. Let's continue to remind each other of the power we all hold within.